Hello, my name is Debbie. I'm Owlandgator Stitcher. Welcome to Flosstube number 82. Today is Friday, March 27th, 2026. This is a video mainly about cross stitch, sometimes what I'm reading and watching and life thrown in. I hope that everyone has had a good month. I had a better stitchy month than I did in February, but that's not surprising. But still not on average with what I usually get, but I had some fun life stuff and some other things going on that kept me from hitting my goals, but that's okay. So I am going to put the life stuff at the end, and I'm just going to jump in and start showing you my stitching. So the first thing, I try every month to have a new start. Just I've got tons of things kitted up, and the only way to get a kit done is to get it started. So I try and do at least one a month. And so this month I pulled out the Bird Crush Club. Probably this was a series that came out, I want to say 2022, from Lindy Stitches. And what you got, if you were a subscriber every month, you got the pattern. There was one Threadworks specialty floss. You got some stickers. You got some information about the bird. She had some amazing photographs. A friend of hers is a wildlife photographer, and he took the pictures and they wrote about the bird. So you got a lot with your kit. Didn't get the fabric. And so I happily joined the club because I love Lindy Stitches. And probably in 2023, I did my first one, and I will show you what I did for that one. So that was the American Goldfinch. So this was done in 2023. Oops, let me do this so you can actually see the bird. So they're all relatively small, probably a couple thousand stitches for all of them. So this the fabric name is still on here. I don't think it is. It's a 32 count even weave, that I can tell. It's probably a color and cotton. I had kitted up everything, and I can probably get, if I was really, really tight on the margins, 6, but I probably am more comfortable doing 4 on each piece of fabric. So I'm sort of deciding as I go along which bird I'm going to put on which fabric. I originally had decided everything, had them kitted up in 4 different bags. Things got separated, so I just consolidated everything into one bag and decided that I wanted the next one I would start, which of course now the pattern is hiding from me. Here we go. So it's I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, the lazuli or lazuli bunting. So here's the actual bird. Look at that beautiful photograph of that bird. And then here is the pattern. So a cute little pattern. And I did this on 32 count Garden Party from Bestitch Me. And to be honest, because I just, how do you decide which one? I'm planning to stitch all of them, so I might as well get going. I am participating in, I do a lot of Facebook games, and Laura Stitching by the Shore she does an I Spy game. And so there was one of the prompts, 2 colors of green, however you choose to interpret it. So I said, okay, I'm just going to interpret it the simplest way with 2 shades of green in floss. So that's why I picked this one. And so this is where I am. So I did not get the bird at all, but that was okay. I wanted to get my 2 shades of green in, which of those are, so that's a dark green leaf and then a paler green leaf that you can see there. So every one of these patterns has one Threadworks color, but they aren't always in the bird. And in this case, it is that lighter green sort of tealy leaf. You can sort of see some of the variegation there. So once I got that done, and that was also, I started up here simply because they're sort of round, but because I'm doing it on one piece of fabric, it's hard to find like what the center is. So I just sort of said, if this was a square, here's where the upper corner will be, and counted over till I got to that good starting point. And then once I got those 4 leaves done, I just picked up the brown, did that branch, and started on the other leaf over here. And that was about 2 days worth of stitching. And at that point, I was ready to move on. So I've decided, because what happened was once I finished the American Goldfinch, I said, oh, okay, that's done, and keep the others. And it just sort of fell off my radar because it wasn't officially a whip. And so I'm now just, until I get all these birds done, I'm going to call them all whips. It's going to be a whip even if I finish one. The next one it will still sort of be out and about. They're all together. I have to determine that, as part of the kit, you did get the Threadworks floss, but I'm not sure. It's, again, things got separated. So I will have to determine if I have all the thread work. I certainly have most of it, and I probably do have the other one, and it's probably just in my excess stash collection. So that was my new start for March. Okay, so next I've got a big pile here. I theoretically put it in some order, but probably doesn't make sense to anyone but me. I did my last video probably towards the end of February, but not on the last day. And so I was still trying to finish up Bingo in Full Coverage Fanatics from February. And so I think that it was space, which I interpreted to mean like outer space or the cosmos, not free space, which I talked about in my last video. And so I pulled out Boreal Colors. This is charted by Stitches So Beautiful, artwork by Eder Jose Rosa. Or Jose Rosa, I'm not sure. He's Brazilian, so I'm going to assume it's Jose. That's how I would say it in Portuguese, but I'm not sure in Brazil how they say it. This is not exciting. This is one that I did start it last year, but didn't get a huge amount in. And I think it's very clear that I was done when I was done this time, because I've got a needle hanging from it. Look, black. I put in over 1,000 stitches of black. And there was probably 1,000 stitches of black in it from the first time. So that's why I probably hit my point and just said, I've had enough. So whenever I pick this back up again, and it certainly will be picked up again this year, I will come and do more black, and maybe I'll get really excited and put in a dark blue. But this project is like 40%, 48% or so 3-ton, excuse me. And so as a result, there's just going to be a lot of it. I don't mind stitching in black. It doesn't bore me or anything, but sometimes I just do get to my limit. Say enough is enough. And that is a 22 count even weave, stitching that 1/1 full cross. All my full coverages, unless for some reason it's a kit and tells me to do otherwise, they are all full cross. Doing half crosses makes me dizzy. Okay, so the next one, I'm also trying to every month work on sort of smaller pieces to get them to a finish, just so that they're not lingering forever in my whip pile. And I actually finished last month one that had been sitting there since 2020, and it was quite small. So I think that's kind of silly. So I just like to plug away at them a little bit each month. So this one is called The Snuggle is Real. Here's the picture. This is from Just Cross Stitch from a couple of years ago. Carolyn Seasook Stitch had started this as a stitch along, whatever you want to call it, a couple of years ago, and I jumped on because I love cats. I don't know if you can hear my cat crying in the background, but she is. She's just looking for attention, so I think my husband is giving it to her. But really, really cute kitty there, just sleeping in a slipper. And so I put in a little over 1,000 stitches. This is a magazine piece, and it is full of confetti. There's no question about it. I took a picture of the pattern and I blew it up just so I could read the symbols better. And I don't know what fabric this is. I know that it's an 18 count Ada dye by Fortnut Fabrics, but I don't have the fabric name. So basically I did almost what I did. I basically did that whole kitty head that you see. I probably had maybe 100 stitches sort of in there, but not much. So this month I did that little kitty head, and then you see those few brown stitches down there, which that's just in the sole or the heel of the slipper, whatever you want to call it. But I think the kitty looks really good. I still need to do the whiskers, and there are also some long stitches for floof. There's really not back stitching beyond, in fact, I think there is no back stitching. It's just to get the floof and the whiskers in that you have to sort of do those long stitches. So cute little thing. I will pick this up again in April to work on it a little bit more. I will not finish it in April. It's just even though it's not huge, it's a lot of color changes and just following a pattern. and so it's slow going, but I know I just love that end result, and I really enjoy it when I get there. All right, the next one is also, this is my oldest non-full coverage whip. I started this in May 2020, and this is another Lindy Stitches pattern. This is Stars Bright. I think this is not actually a quote from Hemingway. I'd have to go back through the pattern, but it's close. So I'm just plugging away at this a few days every month just to bring it a little bit more to completion. So this is a 32 count linen from Picture This Plus, and the colorway is mint. So I'll pull it back so you can see the whole thing. And then what I worked on, it was basically, really what I worked on was that bird. I had a little bit of it done last time, but I finished off the bird, and it's a chubby bird. And then I did the branch the bird is standing on, some of that greenery down below, maybe a little bit on the quilt squares to the side, but not a whole lot. I just was really, really focused on getting that bird done. So not really sure where I'm going to move next, if I'm going to go back to the left side and bring these quilt squares down, or if I'll continue on the right side. It'll be whichever way the mood takes me when I pull this out in April. Okay, and then the next one is my, I'm focusing this year on this piece. It is not a goal to get done. It is just a goal to work on it a few days every month, and this is Queen of Freedom from Mirabilia. This is not one of the runs that was re-released, but this is when I started in 2023, and so I sort of had started it and hadn't done a whole lot on it, and so I decided that I would try and give it 3 days every month, time permitting. No goal of getting it done. My attitude is that I want to enjoy this piece, and I felt with Portrait of Veronica, I was at a certain point trying so hard just to get it done that I stopped enjoying the process of stitching it. And so I really, really, I love Mirabilias, and I want to enjoy them. This one, I am doing this one 1/1 on the skin. I love the way that looks, but it is time consuming. So here's where I am now. So basically what I did this time, I had done a little bit on the hand in February. So basically that whole forearm that you see, and then finish the hand as well. And up, it's starting to go up. So that sort of dark patch over here, that's her elbow. So I was happy to get a lot of that skin done, and this is done. I love this fabric, and this is 32 count even weave fabrics by Stephanie, and the color is Nimue. So there we go. Loving that. It is going to be a little bit tight on, I think, top to bottom, so I did do a center start on this as a result. And with this, whenever I work on this, because it is the 250th anniversary of the United States in July, I am trying to be thoughtful about when I'm stitching on this, like why I am compelled to stitch on patriotic. And I'll show you when I get to haul, but I was thinking about the Star Spangled Banner and what that means to me. Now, obviously, if you the song is meant to be literally that there were bombs bursting in the air, but if you take it more metaphorically, it's about hope, and that even when the cards are down, if you fight for what you believe in, you have a good chance of becoming victorious. And I know that for a lot of people, things are very difficult in the United States right now, and I'm trying to hold on to that hope, and that we will have better days ahead, and that our country will be moving in a direction that is striving to the ideals that are in our founding documents. So that's what I was thinking about this month when I was working on it. The next one that I have, this is another one of my monthly ones, and once again, I'm going to have to reach over here and get my phone because I don't have a cover photo in this. This is a chatelaine. This was a mystery stitch whenever she did it. I don't know, probably more than a decade ago. And here we go. So it's like Mystery 18 Summer Garden. So there's the photo. And I am, again, I am participating in a stitch along on Facebook with this. And theoretically, there is a plan to, if you want to get it done in the year, there's, I think, 6 parts on this, the way that the designer set it up, but they're not just doing like part 1 in 2 months and they're sort of coming up with a different way that breaks it up a little bit more evenly. I can't keep up with that if I want to do my other stitching, so I am just doing 3 days a month and I get to where I get. So I would say, I don't know which way is up right now, but it doesn't matter because it's a chatelaine and right now all I have done is the center. So here's where I am. And this is a 32 count even weave from Oak Crown Studio in the colorway Vinca, V-I-N-C-A. And so what I did this month, I finished, so that is the center mandala. And so I did finish all the full crosses in it. I'm going to get this a little smaller so I can point things out, including that whole sort of border, just the square around. And then I don't know if I'll be able to show these very clearly, but you can see I did some eyelets in there. Sort of like here, around all of these green things, there are eyelets. It's really hard to see the stitching. It's a very pale, sort of very pale blue, lighter than the fabric, but hard to see. But I think what you can see are the holes in the fabric that's created by the eyelets. So those were a lot of fun to do. I also got delayed on this pattern. I had to go to the Stitch Along group and ask for help because there were some symbols on there that I took this pattern and I have an electronic version of it and I blew up the electronic version, so that I could read every pixel on the symbol, and I still could not match that symbol to the color key. And that's what's great about doing a stitch along group. And in this particular group, in order to get into the group, you had to prove that you purchased the pattern. And so because of that, there's no like chart sharing, but it's a little bit freer to show pictures of the chart because everyone has already purchased it. And so, and I was only showing a very blown up small bit anyhow. And I asked people, and quite a few people very kindly came in and said, okay, those are beads. So right then and there, I mean, I didn't have to worry about making them cross stitches. And then they helped me match the bead to the actual symbol. So thank you very much to the members of that group. I am probably middle of the pack. I mean, there are some people who are really good about keeping up and doing everything in the month. And then there are some people who are like, I really want to do it, but I don't have time to stitch. And they basically have only put in a few stitches. And then there's a lot of people like me who are actively working on it, but we are taking our sweet time. Okay. And then the next whip I have to show you, I think everything I have left is full coverages. So this was one of my Whip Go pieces from this month. And this is Tug of War from Mystic Stitch. And this is a company that went out of business a few years ago. I will say, I think the way she charted was absolutely beautiful. I only bought physical charts from this company because I was buying them, 10 years ago. And when I was buying them from, ONSs, not directly from the vendor. So I can't speak as to why the company went out of business, but I did hear things that maybe customer service wasn't great, whatever. But this little sparrow, you can get a similar one to this, I believe, from the Cross Stitch Studio. It's cropped a little bit differently, and obviously she did her own charting with that. But that is Tug of War. This was one I started in 2020, and it's just going to be, because it's a paper pattern only, it's going to be a very, very slow stitch. And I've also made a decision. So I had started just going across, which is why I've got like a ton of like dark green and black. And then I did that whole clothespin when I got to it rather than just sticking to the page. But then I made a decision I'm going to go down and start working on the quilt, because the quilt is, I think, what makes this pattern very interesting. And so that's what I did this month. I went down and had to do a few more rows of black, but that was okay. And then I just went down and a little bit of, I think it's 453. You can sort of see that very light gray there, but then literally just did that quilt block, started working on it with all those different shades of blue. So that was a lot of fun to sort of bring it together and work on it. So that was one of my whip go calls, and my whip go goals will vary depending on the project, but this one, my goal was 1,000 stitches this month, and I achieved that goal. And then my next one, I double dipped for my little games, and so one of them, this was a whip go draw also, but I also used this in Full Coverage Fanatics for their March bingo. And I think the prompt was along the lines of something to be feared. And this is Mother of Dragons. I said we can fear dragons, but let's face it, we all kind of are a little bit scared of Daenerys too. So there's that. This is Pain Free Crafts. This Pain Free Crafts is alive and well and a wonderful company, but this pattern is no longer available from Pain Free Crafts. I have seen a version of it from Heaven and Earth Designs. I don't know if it's retired there as well, but my version is the Pain Free Crafts one, and I also have it as a hard copy only, paper chart. So here's the whole thing. Last year I went down and did that dragon head because it was driving me nuts doing the background and I wanted to see something come out. And I just love the way that dragon head looks. But what I did, don't get too excited. I moved back up and did a lot of background. So this is actually one of the wings of the dragon. So part of that. But then this starting about here, Pain Free Crafts pages are, depending on how you look at it, big in the sense that there are fewer symbols per page. It's not like a Haid regular size where there's like 8,000 or 9,000 stitches. These have many, many fewer stitches. So I'm not quite done with this page. This is page 3. There's like a light emanating off of the behind the dragon wing. So there's a few onesies and twosies of colors in there. But I was doing this while I was watching TV. And so I just was, wanted to have something that was just easier to stitch. So I did go on to page 4 and just start pulling colors, more background, working on the wall. Very easy to work on. So that is Mother of Dragons. And this one will also come out another time this year. And then the next one that I pulled out for March, also for bingo and Full Coverage Fanatics. And I honestly don't remember the prompt. I feel like it must have been something that started with C, but I could be wrong. But this is Cozy Winter Book Nook. Also charted by Pain Free Crafts. However, glory hallelujah, I have this on Pattern Keeper. And I started this last year for Beth the Steadfast Stitcher. She did her birthday sal was something connected to books. So this definitely is connected to books. This is, I think it's my second largest whip. It's got a little over 500,000 stitches. And because I start in December, it's not like I have a huge amount done. And this is done on a 22 count. So that's where I am. So compare this to like Boreal colors. This one, immediately I'm jumping into other colors already. So it's a lot of fun just to pick it up. And there's not, there is some confetti, but it's much more, I can pick a color and do at least like 2 or 3 strands of it before I'm sort of like, okay, it no longer makes sense to do that color. So just picking that one up and doing that. It's in Pattern Keeper, so while I'm kind of saying let's get work on page 1, I just follow where the thread takes me. So if it goes down to whatever page this is or over to page 2, I'm fine with that. Okay, so that is Cozy Winter Book Nook. And I have one piece left. I show this every month. This is my Focus on a Finish for this year. I also used it 3 times in my Full Coverage Fanatics Bingo. This is Evening Romance by Artisy. And I get to 3,000 stitches for the bingo, but I put in over 4,000 stitches, so just wanted to keep working on it. Also, trying to get about 4,000 done every month. In April, I may limit that to 3,000 just because I've got other things I'm working on and life stuff. So here's where it is now. This is done on an 18 count Aida. And so where I worked this time, Artisy pages are like pain-free craft pages where there are fewer stitches per page. And so what I did, because I reached the edge over here, I ended up just working across the 2 pages in totality. I wasn't trying to get to a page finish. So did not get a page finish, but I got a lot done on 2 pages. So basically you can see a little bit there that got this evergreen got a lot in it. Obviously I brought down that tree trunk. The bridge got quite a few more stitches. So next month I should be able to, maybe won't finish those pages, but I'll be really close. So that is all the stitching I have to show you. So this year, I really am trying to put more stitches on fewer things. I've decided I really like this method of, putting, it probably works out to, with the exception of something like Evening Romance, it really does work out to about 1,000 stitches before I get to that point where I'm ready to move on to something else. Obviously, I'm not, most cases, not doing 1,000 stitches in a day. It's over several days. But I hit that point, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to move on to something else. So I think that's working out really well for me. It also allows me to see progress on what I have been stitching. All right, so my plans for April. So my Whipco draws this month, I don't remember all the numbers, but one of them was 13. So I am doing 13 as a block. And the way I do it, I basically take the 25 projects. I shouldn't even say that. I have a stack of index cards with every project written on it. And as I work on something, that card goes to the bottom of the stack. And so when Whipco calls get called, like I can't remember what the numbers were, but I think like 12, 13, something else or whatever. I will take those 3 numbers. Let's say it was 4, 12, and 13. I can't guarantee those are the numbers. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, pull that card. That's one of my Whipco calls. Keep going to 12, and then 13 came out. And that way, projects that I haven't worked on in a while are getting some love. And so one of the games I am playing, this is actually that they do it on Discord now. It's called Fandom Stitching Central. And there's a 26 for 26 where you put 2,026 stitches into 26 projects over the course of a year. And if it's one of those projects, my goal, if I haven't hit that yet, my goal is to get 1,000 stitches in it. If it's not one of those, it's to do a day of stitching on it. So not great progress, but I've got like almost 80 whips going on. So I need, while I do like to work on every project every year, some things become more focuses than others. So anyhow, one of mine, which is I am working on the Year of the Woods 1. I'm doing 3 of these on a piece of fabric. And so for a total of 4 different pieces of fabric. And so this is the fall one. And on this one, I started with the woodpecker. I'll show you where I am next month. I just wanted to show you the pattern. So that is one of my Whipco goals. My next Whipco goal, which also probably will only get a day or so, unless, I'm feeling so inspired, this is from Emma Congdon, one of her books, Cross Stitch for the Earth. has so many amazing patterns in here. But it makes it difficult to find when you're looking for it quickly. Okay, so this is the one that I'm doing. And it's she doesn't name her book patterns in her book, so I just call this one Between the Pines. And this has a John, I don't know how to say, Muir quote in it, who was one of the big environmentalists in the 19th century, encouraging the establishment of our national park system in the United States. So it's nice to have a quote from him. And then my third one, which is one of my 26 for 26, so this one will get more progress, is Sunset Koala from the Cross Stitch Studio. This was started a few years ago. Dizzy Stitcher he was starting this as a Sal, and I don't know if I've actually seen anyone finish it, but a lot of us started it. It is a full coverage. You're supposed to do all that background. I do not do all that background. So anyhow, I wasn't planning to pull it out, but I just got into habit, so here's where I am. So I've got an ear and part of his head done. So that one will get about 1,000 stitches in it in April. Okay, and then I also am doing bingo. I'm trying with Full Coverage Fanatics every month to get at least one bingo line. Now, as much as I can slot evening romance in, I do. This month, I think as I mentioned in April, I may only do 3,000 stitches on it, but I have other goals. So let's see if I have the cover handy here. This is Magic Study from Haid. Artwork is by Rose Kahn. This chart is no longer found on Haid. You can get it through Painfree Crafts. And so I'm doing this one. This prompt is orange. And let me tell you, I struggled to think like orange, but I said there's a good chunk of orange in there. I'm not anywhere close to that, so I will not be stitching with orange, but this does have orange as part of the rainbow. So that is what I am doing for one of the squares. The next one, I have to bend down to get this one. The next one is Your Largest Whip, and it's got this very huge bag. This is my largest whip. This is Grand Library, Supersize Max Color, artwork by Amy Stewart, charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. And this is my largest, and I think it has like 715,000 stitches, so it's by far my biggest whip. I will also be using Evening Romance for a few of the prompts. All right, so I have boards. I forgot to show them last month. But I have 2 boards, and these are literally, I just have them out for me to look at and as a guide. So these are my 26 for 26. So I can see which ones I have done. I have completed 5 of the 26. So if there's a check mark, it means I've gotten more than 2,000 stitches on it. If there's a number next to it, it means I've started working on it, but I haven't hit that yet. So all the ones who have check marks are ones that are sort of focuses of mine. So I showed 4 of them to you already. The one I didn't show you was Old World Map. I did manage to get a few hundred stitches in it to take me over the 2,000 mark, but it's a large project and you weren't going to see much. So I'll show that next month when I get a little bit more progress on it. So that's one of my boards, and I just literally sit and stare at this just as a reminder of yearly goals. And then this is much more of a monthly one. So I put, so this is my bingo. And so you can see I did, for bingo, I did 3,000 stitches. I did more than that on that. And then the same with Cozy Winter Book Nook and Mother and Dragons. And then Whip Go, Tug of War, and I put the check mark there in parentheses just to make it clear that that was a double dip. And then you can see progress. Those are right now the 4 that are, I might use them in challenges, but those are the ones that regardless I want to get progress on every month. And then my new start was the Bird Crush Club. I do plan to have a new start in April. I don't know what that new start is. I'll figure out when I'm ready to start something. See where the stitching inspiration takes me. Okay, So I have some haul to show you. Market, obviously, as I'm sure everyone knows, took place in March. But the first thing I have to show you was not market haul. I was very, very fortunate. So Siska Stitches, she has a Flosstube as well as a Facebook group, and her birthday was at the beginning of March, and so she very generously through her Facebook group basically said, "Show me a picture of." It's definitely to show a birthday cat, but it could be whatever you want. My cats will not put on a birthday hat. And I didn't like have a cupcake or anything to put in front of them. So literally I just showed a picture of my cat and said happy birthday. And that was enough. So she just did a random drawing and I was very lucky to win it. And so she said a chart of your choice from Pain-Free Crafts. So what I told her to do, I had some in my wish list. I said, just go pick one off my wish list. And she's laughingly said, "You know which one I'm going to pick." And yes, if you watch Siska Stitches, you know she loves her cats. So I had this Bridget Ashwood one that I had on my wish list, and so she very kindly purchased it for me. So and you know, this is gorgeous because you have these two beautiful cats, but then you also get all of the color with all of the roses and the leaves and stuff. So it'll be a lot of fun to stitch this one. I actually don't have fabric for it right now. A couple of years ago, I bought I think it was 2 yards of 22 count, which is my preferred full coverage size. And, you know, every time I was starting a full coverage, I'd hack off a piece and stitch on it. And I had a piece there and I thought, okay, great, let's measure and see if I can get this on there. So I measured, and in one direction, I was like, which I think must have been the height here. I said, well, it's maybe an inch shorter, but like a 2.5 margin, I can live with that. And then I flipped the fabric and, you know, it was one of those. So I needed something that was even longer and it was even skinnier. So I was like, yeah, this isn't, you know, no way it was going to work. So I need to buy some more fabric. I do like to buy it. I'm not going to, I don't think I can source it anymore the way that I got last time. And I think places like 123 Stitch will only give you up to a yard. But I like to do it that way, and that way I can cut what I want. And so it makes it a little bit more economical. So anyhow, then what is this one called? Cats in Love artwork by Bridget Ashwood. So, or I guess technically it says Ashwood Studios, but the artist is Bridget Ashwood. So then also not market haul, but Fiber Arts Amy. I think many of you know she owns Oak Crown Studios fabric dyeing company, but she always had like a very large personal stash, and she made a decision to start destashing some of that because she's like, I'm a fabric dyer. If I need something and I don't have it, I can just dye it. So she had a destash, and so I bought a couple colors from her, and so this is one, I just think this is such a fabulous color. So this is a 28 count linen. It's called Black Ice from Bestitch Me. So it's just a fabulous, fabulous color. Something definitely underwater needs to go on that. And then the other one I'll show you. Let's see. Yes, here it is. And then this is the other one. This is Picture This Plus, and this is Twilight. And Twilight I have already paired up with one of my market purchases. This is Not Lost from Lindy Stitches, and I think this was my favorite one from market. This is it's based on this artwork, and so Stephanie spent a lot of time trying to chart and find fabric that would sort of meet the inspiration from this painting, and I think that she did a fabulous job with the charting, and I think this fabric will work really well with it. So I am excited to put that in my ever-growing pile of things kitted up. And when I kit up, especially, well, this one does have some, but if it's just DMC, I use a master set, so I don't kit up DMC with it. So it's not like I'm, you know, spending such a huge amount on floss to kit things up. But if I try to go to my fabric stash and match something, and if for some reason I don't have it, then I'll look to purchase something. But the next one that I got was a sampler for Grace. This is from, I'm going to hope I get the pattern company name right, Shaded Stitchery, I think it's what the official name is. Anyhow, and this is the pattern that why I was thinking about the Star Spangled Banner. So this is not a reproduction sampler, but what what she did for this was that I think, as we're all aware, there are not a lot of samplers from girls or women of color um, from the 19th century. Most and so because either they didn't do them or whatever they did was not valued and it wasn't kept. But this so but what she wanted to, and there have been some, like Arlene from Works by ABC has done some, has found some. So it's not that they are totally non-existent, but they're very, very hard to come by. Trying to get the picture itself straight. There we go. But what this is, what she did was she did a lot of research, and she found this girl who was not enslaved, but she was an indentured servant. So, you know, basically a step up from being enslaved, but she was an indentured servant. And part of what she got for that was she learned to sew, like in exchange for providing labor to this family. They were required to teach her certain skills, and so they taught her to sew. Clearly she knew how, so they use that as an inspiration. And she was one of the people who helped sew the flag that flew over Mount McKinley during the War of 1812, which inspired, now I'm going to get my wars mixed up, anyhow, in 1812, when the Brits attacked the United States in the conflict, and when they woke up and the flag was still there, she helped sew that flag. And so, like, I've done, like, Fort McKinley is in Baltimore, and if you go there, they've got this whole thing with the flag flying. That's not the original flag. It's 200 years old. It wouldn't last that long. But anyhow, this pattern, she took that inspiration and basically, like, took the styles of the time and motifs that a girl living as, an indentured servant, and just sort of did it in that style. So really, really wonderful. And I did pull a piece of fabric. This is chocolate milk from Fabrics by Stephanie. And then I did have a couple of the colors, called for colors, that in my stash already, but I'll get a few others. So that is Sampler for Grace. And then my last market purchase, this is from Tiny Modernist. And this is the book Goddess, because, again, I love to read. You can see that back there, that hot mess back there. But anyhow, that is the book Goddess. Love it. And I love the fact that she's got glasses and purple hair and kitties and just cake. Lots of things I love about this. And I'm going to pair that up with, again, just going into my stash. This is Vintage Tiffany from Fabrics by Stephanie. Lovely, lovely blue. Tiffany blue, if you want to call it that. All right, so again, none of these I know when I'm going to start. We'll see what happens in April and what inspires me. So that is all of the stitching I have to show you. I want to talk a little bit about books and TV and life. So just really quickly on the book front, and again, I get so many books from the library that I hand them back, so I don't have a nice little thing to show for you. But one that I really enjoyed in March was The Will of the Many by James Islington. And it is a fantasy book, but where basically in this fantastical land, it's basically people have their will and they give up their will to people above them, and in exchange for giving up their will, they get certain things. So their will, it's their strength and other things that they give up, and in exchange, basically it means they get food, and it's sort of a pyramid. So 8 people agree to give up their will to one person. That person has signed on to someone else, so they're giving up half. So they've got will of 8 people. Now basically 4 of those people are now giving it to the person above them, and it sort of pyramids up until the top. But obviously, like a lot of fantasy, well-written fantasy, it's a metaphor for what are we willing to give up in society to those more powerful in exchange for what we think we're going to get in return. And it is not a young adult, but the protagonist, the lead character, he's probably 17 or 18, and he was a prince of lived on an island that basically refused to participate in this scheme. And all this happens before the book starts. And he basically, his family is killed and he escapes and assumes a new identity. And he refuses to give up his will, but then he gets adopted by this guy because he wants to use him to investigate what happened at this academy. And so it's, but it's just very interesting, great character development, great world building. And so I thoroughly enjoyed it being, fantasy. Of course, it's not a standalone. There are three of them, but it's got, I think the next one is The Strength of the Few. And then I don't think the last one is called The Power of One, but it's along that. I mean, yeah, going up to the pyramid again. So it will have a finite ending. I'm on hold for the second book. Third book is either coming out at the end of this year or sometime next year. And they're long, of course. It's like 600 pages, like so many fantasies are. So that is my reading. And then, I've read tons of other things, but that I think was my favorite. And then my TV show that I want to talk about is called Rooster. It's on HBO Max. And it is, the lead is Steve Carell. And I am kind of hit or miss with Steve Carell. Nothing against him. I think he's a really, really good actor and don't know anything about him as a person. But I just think some of the shows, the things that he has chosen to do are not to my liking. This one is I want to call it a dramedy, but basically it's about a writer who writes kind of definitely pop fiction, and he's along the lines of, I don't want to call him James Patterson because he's not that famous, but that kind of sort of pulpy murder mystery, a hero who seems to be superhuman. He's perfectly human, but he seems to be superhuman. Like that's what the character sounds like. And he's called Rooster. Anyhow, the Steve Carell plays a man who he's probably in his 50s. He's recently divorced within the past couple years, trying to figure out what's happening next. He's asked to give a guest lecture at a college where his grown-up daughter sounds like she's an adjunct professor, and her marriage has fallen apart. And it just sort of, so some of it is, looking at the dynamics of relationships. It's also looking about, how colleges have become, I'm going to use as like a lot of safe spaces, and what does that mean, and how much when I was in college, you had a due date and your paper was due then. And there were reasons you could get extensions that, if you had a death in the family or you were yourself really, really ill, or like there were reasons that you could get extensions. My college was not, one of these, I don't care, as long as you're alive, if you don't get the paper, whatever. Like it was not like that. Like there are plenty of people who would get extensions on things because they had life events happening. But it does sort of feel like the joke is that the current generation basically, oh, I woke up this morning and I didn't feel like doing it. I don't think that's fair to this generation. There are plenty of people, my nieces are of this generation, they're hard workers, whatever. That's not them. But I think like that's the image, and it's sort of playing off of that about how faculty who are my age are having to deal with this sort of new environment where you can't just tell people buck up, that you have to sort of work with them and help work at their level to help them achieve what they need to achieve. And so it just plays with that dynamic, and it actually is really well. I've only seen 3 or 4 episodes. It drops every week, so I can only watch it when it gets dropped, but I'm enjoying that. Okay, so moving on to life stuff. Some happy, some not so happy. So at the beginning of this month, I had a couple non-stitchy days, which was fine. I went to a very, very fancy wedding in Tampa, which is about 2 hours away from me. And so I had to drive my mother down. My husband actually came the next day with my cousin's college age student. I think he's my cousin once removed, if that's the correct. Anyhow, and it was his cousin, so a different and whatever, who was getting married. My first cousin's daughter, who is in her 30s, she got married in Tampa. She actually lives in Baltimore, but her parents live in Tampa. And so really, really lovely, lovely wedding. And, but it was just, it was lots of activities. So, my mother and my brother and sister-in-law, we all went out to a really nice dinner on Friday evening. And then we went to a welcome thing at a very, beautiful, like really, really happening social steam, but they have blocked off part of the facility for us. But, overlooking the water in Tampa, not on the bay itself, like not in the main Tampa Bay, but one of the parts that go off. Just really, really beautiful. And then the next day was the wedding and the reception. And then there was a brunch where like the younger generation were all really hungover. I was doing totally fine because I had about 2 sips of wine. Uh, and so, and then we left. But it was just a lot of family activity, which was great. I was really, really great. That side of the family, I'm very, very close to my cousins on that side of the family. And well, not, I would say, one of that generation. So if you think about my grandparents and like there were 8 grandchildren they had, I think only one grandchild didn't make it. All the others made it. One of my cousins had kids a little bit later in life, and uh, so he's like in his 50s now, but his kids are 8, 9, around that age. And I had never met them before, so it was great to meet them. I have met all of the other of that generation, um, but the age goes from say 30 to 8 or 9, so it's quite a span of ages. But it was really, really great. The wedding was a lot of fun. I can tell I'm getting old though because everything felt really loud. You're sort of like, I can't hear myself. And the only time it wasn't loud was at the brunch because everyone was so hungover and there was no music. It was just gentle conversation. Um, Regular stuff for a few weeks. I thought I was going to have to do a trip to California. My mom's twin sister, who has been battling some health issues over the past couple of years, and it was clear that she was really going downhill quickly. And she originally had said she didn't want my mom to come. This is my mom's twin sister, so very, very close to her. She didn't want my mom to come because she was just so tired. And, sometimes just having someone there, even if we weren't staying with them, it just, you have to sort of perk up and pay attention to them, and she felt that would be too much. But I think when it was clear to her that she didn't really have long, my mom and I made some really quick plans to go visit her. So this was Sunday, and then but my mom said, let's go on Thursday. I guess she had some stuff she was doing this week, and I need to travel with my mom. My mom is perfectly fit and capable, but I think it's since the pandemic, she just kind of likes someone to come with her, and usually that person is me. So I was all planning to go, and then we got basically my aunt passed away on Monday, so we canceled our trip, and we were very fortunate. We actually got the money back for the plane tickets and all of that, so that was good on that side. But obviously, it was very sad that my aunt passed away. She was towards the end. I don't think she was in a lot of pain, but she was just really, really exhausted. And so, basically like she couldn't really stay awake for more than 5 minutes, and her quality of life had gone down. So it was sad. But she was 85, so she had a good long life. And 2 of her children were with her. Her third one was not able to be there. But he had gone up and spent some good time with her a couple weeks before that. So actually when his 2 siblings came to the wedding, he was the one who didn't make it. He went and stayed with his parents, and so he had some good time with them as well. So that's kind of what was going on with my life. April, as I'm a volunteer with my friends at the library, and we have our semi-annual book sale, which is 5 days, and I'm a very active volunteer with that. So basically those days, the evening I'll get some stitching done, but during the day, minimal to no stitching, because I usually, a couple of the days, I like to get there by 11. On the Saturday, I get there much, much earlier because it's a longer sale day. But I love it. I have so much fun with the book sale. So if you're in Alachua County, April 18th and 22nd, Friends of the Library book sale. But where there's 500,000 objects for sale, and the last day is dime day, and then the day before is half price day. So books are priced really great to begin with, and then the prices get even better. So anyhow, that's all I have to share. I hope that everyone had a good March and that April will be even better. And I look forward to seeing you towards the end of April. Happy stitching.